Friends, good evening. In light of the Bitcoin market's collapse, it's important to note that around 483,000 traders have been liquidated. Over the last 24 hours, these liquidations have totaled more over $1.5 billion, and the figure is constantly rising. All of this will be discussed today. We'll also talk about the interesting liquidation of a $3 million short position on the Bitcoin versus USDT pair on the Bybit exchange during the course of the last day. According to Bloomberg, Trump is mulling a 90-day tariff freeze for all countries, with the exception of China. As a result, the Bitcoin market is currently rebounding. In actuality, though, this is merely a fabrication. Why? Because market makers and exchanges are just off of this. Naturally, these exchanges then pay taxes to their respective nations, leaving the so-called hamsters, retail traders, with nothing, because this is what we perceive in reality. The market shifts in the opposite way as soon as the crowd begins shorting. Market makers did precisely that. They pulled a comeback. Consequently, within 2 hours, we witnessed a strong move back to the $81,000 mark. Let me remind you that Bitcoin started to decline precipitously just yesterday evening. By the way, we sank right away after I produced a video predicting a future decline. Not to $72,000 yet, though, as I had anticipated. Rather, we fell to about $74,500. That's the current state of affairs. We'll discuss this in greater depth today, including the Federal Reserve, which has scheduled a meeting behind closed doors. They will talk about the national debt, the Fed's stance, and the next course of action. Additionally, we will cover the current state of affairs with stablecoins, our goals for XRP, and the experiences that holders of XRP are having. The cryptocurrency market as a whole is presently at very apprehensive levels. The market is obviously a place of terror. Trump made one promise and is now breaking it by starting these pointless trade battles, which has left some investors in a quite poor psychological state. The scenario we are in now is one of rewards and penalties. Trump uses his public remarks to influence the market. For example, when he posts on social media or says, "Don't worry, avoid becoming weak, avoid being foolish. Do not panic, even when people's equilibrium is slipping." Naturally, a lot of people disagree with him. Why? Since Trump initiated this trade war, he ought to be the one to put a swift end to it. It's also important to note that in my opinion, Bitcoin has only decreased by roughly 5% in the last day. Naturally, though, the response to this fall has been more severe for all coins. After Bitcoin's recovery, XRP has only marginally recovered after dropping more than 15% at one point. As we can see, XRP broke through its $1.77 support level and briefly dropped to $1.62. We will also discuss that further. Regarding the chart, the trend line was fully displayed. Yesterday, I also made a post about this on my Telegram channel. To receive updates more quickly, please feel free to subscribe. What then do we have? It was very clear that XRP would fall, and it appears that the correction in the cryptocurrency market is still ongoing. Without a doubt, we should hold off on making any trades until the downturn is complete and consolidation occurs. In terms of Bitcoin, we are now witnessing the worst start of the year in history. After venting, we haven't really observed reductions like this previously. What comes next then? The key question is that many believe that we may see indications of growth once more by the end of 2025. The majority of individuals no longer think that Bitcoin will soon reverse or that alternatives will increase. Regarding XRP, a fresh level of $1.63 has emerged. This decline into the support zone indicates that even if the problem is handled, there may be more declines if Trump keeps enforcing tariffs and going in this direction. To be honest, I find the tariff narrative to be absurd. The cryptocurrency market just required a reset. The only issue is that this fix might have been made without causing altcoins to decline. They could have just transferred Bitcoin's liquidity to altcoins and increased their value. Everyone would have benefited greatly from that. Market makers, however, saw the cryptocurrency market differently. What do then? They dump all of the altcoins, not just Bitcoin. I think we're reaching a turning point now. Even though there is always potential for decline, XRP has nearly reached its pre-pump values. Because of this, I think that if the fall continues, XRP may still reach $1.30 or perhaps $1.20. As of right moment, nobody can definitively tell you if the adjustment is complete. I don't think the decline is complete. We can resume searching for trades as soon as we observe consolidation. We observed a decline in the value of Bitcoin. Those in long positions were all liquidated, at least the majority of them. Then we witnessed a sharp increase immediately on the news that Trump would come to an agreement and everything would be all right. and everyone who had gone short was eliminated by that action. The public jumped into shorts and was destroyed as soon as they began to think that Bitcoin would reach $60,000, $50,000, $40,000, or even $20,000. These are the liquidation figures as of right now. Bybit just made $2 million from the liquidation of a long position. The liquidation price for that long was $77,000. Regarding the short positions, one that had an order amount of at least $3 million was liquidated at around $80,000. This was exploited in further exchanges. To be honest though, the transaction is not to blame. Naturally, a person with a gambling addiction will continue to lose money. That's the way it is. Simply enough, people are giving the exchanges their money. I'm not sure if they're making this much money from $1 million or $3 million. You must have earned that somewhere. Perhaps these are the work of politicians or powerful individuals. To be honest, I'm not sure. Post your ideas in the comments section. Do you believe it might be? Because I think it's insane to lose that much money. For me, $3 million or even $1 million is a substantial sum. It should be mentioned that there will be a meeting to discuss the Federal Reserve System, and it is uncertain what they will conclude. Conspiracy theorists are among the many who claim that a new financial system will be established there. SWIFT will generally cease to exist. An XRPL-based system will be used instead. Let's see. If that is the case, we will observe and determine whether a digital system will be implemented. We shall see. In fact, a lot of people think it has something to do with the stock market's decline and the alleged search for answers. However, without trade wars, no solutions would have been required. Furthermore, it is now evident that more developed nations like Taiwan and Japan are searching for a way out of the predicament that President Trump has created. Excuse me, but even the Prime Minister of Taiwan, or rather Japan, is willing to travel to the United States to engage in negotiations with Trump in order to avoid reciprocal tariffs. It's also important to note that if you have XRP, you essentially have diamond balls, as they say. Since it was clear that XRP would decline, that joke implies that people who are currently holding it truly have diamond hands, or diamond balls. And I'm not betting on its revival at this time. Some may bounce to $2. However, it's clear that a further decrease is imminent if XRP doesn't remain above $2. Notably, Layer Zero's CEO said that the stablecoin is essential to defending the US dollar. Since Washington concurs, RLST and XRP may be at the core of that plan. It's also important to note that Trump has, in a sense, made repeated attempts to soothe stock market observers. In essence, he argues that since there is no inflation and oil, energy, and food prices are all declining, the Fed should immediately cut interest rates. Oh, not to blame. It's all the federal, he says. Everything will be all right. Don't be weak, don't be stupid, don't panic, he basically said in a second message that he shared. They belong to the new party, which he described as the party of the weak and the stupid. To be honest, this makes sense. In essence, it involves redistributing money in some way, potentially even from the middle class and rich. Furthermore, these tariffs will make the already impoverished further poorer. Third world nations, those that are unable to make agreements, will bear the brunt of this. Since the average consumer in other nations, possibly even the middle class, can't find anything of value here, I think the US will also suffer. Everyone will probably suffer. For instance, Elon Musk has already lost $130 billion, which is insane, but Warren Buffett is still profitable out of the 500 richest people. Musk, like all cryptocurrency investors whose portfolios are currently down, will eventually catch up, in my opinion. In conclusion, market manipulation is taking place. Some claim that Trump will not impose a 90-day tariff freeze with the exception of China. Others claim that he will. In my opinion, this information was purposefully disclosed in order to cause a bounce and eliminate future short sellers. The manipulation was clear. Bitcoin immediately increased by about 7%. It's interesting to note that the stock markets were also impacted. Today they were really erratic. The S&P 500, in my opinion, fluctuated by about 10%. As we can see, all of those wealthy and powerful people are currently turning a profit. People lose money as a result of them creating the crisis and then providing the remedy. Therefore, a remedy is required to return everything to normal. And what's the answer? Bargaining. Speaking, without applying reciprocal tariffs, because this will be detrimental to the average citizen of any given nation. It's going to be disastrous. Prices will undoubtedly suffer. Right now, XRP is only following the chart. It was ready to fall already. How deep it will go from here is the only question. I believe that these rebounds are being manipulated. Now we can see it. The price of XRP swiftly rose from $1.63 to almost $1.86. Even so, that's less than, say, a week ago. Regardless matter what anyone claims, altcoins are gradually declining. In actuality, the correction is still ongoing, and there isn't a true recovery yet. So we will continue to observe. My portfolio, which was at break-even 2 weeks ago, is now in the red, and I'll be averaging it down. In addition to buying cryptocurrencies with a respectable entry point, I'll be averaging in. I wouldn't argue that everything has fallen apart in the market. It's not a disastrous drop. It's still possible to fall. Because of this, I would say that Ethereum still has some downside, for instance at $1,500, given that we saw it at $900 in 2022. Ethereum has psychological levels of $1,000, $1,350, and $1,100 as support zones. I will be pleased if the drop goes away now. Although I believe it's still too early to begin buying, it will be a buy signal. By the way, I talked about Ethereum on my private channel and mentioned that you can see a double top on the 3-month or half-year chart. Everybody sold Ethereum for more than $3,500, and when that pattern appears, a collapse is typically imminent. There could be a problem with ETH. You make your own judgments, therefore I'm not trying to frighten anyone. All I can say is that we may bottom out around about $1,000 and then bounce back. However, there isn't anything particularly novel about ETH. Solana was the star of this bull cycle. Any child might create their own meme coin using any of the random items and meme coins. Everything was constructed on Solana. Because everyone was creating meme coins on it, from politicians to children, Solana became remembered this cycle. This cycle there was no real technology. When someone says we've developed a super technological project and you ask what it does, they list things like scalability and quick transactions. And I assert that it was already in place during the ICO boom in 2017. You're kind of late to the game with what you're doing in 2025. That is the case then. With you now as CryptoTiff, we're waiting and searching for entrance points for the time being. Although those are holding up fairly well, I believe there is more to come if we discuss Stellar or HPAR. In 2022, XRP was in a far less advantageous position. Its price was less than 30 cents and its market capitalization was less than $100 billion. The coin is currently worth $2. The price is reasonable. However, in the current market, that is undoubtedly an exorbitant price for purchasers. Okay everyone, see you later.